Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. I am Chris, joined with Tate, and this is going to be, right off the bat, this is going to be pretty much just a rant. This is, of course, the Aladdin 2019 live-action remake. I may have just spoiled our entire review there. You could probably click off it right now. But I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to pull any punches with this thing. We are going to tear into this thing. We had a miserable time at this movie.
This is the worst film of the year so far from what I've seen, and I will say it's going to take some doing to actually be topped so far for me, for a multitude number of reasons, which we're both going to go into, because we are both angry about this film.
Mm-hmm.
We both are.
Thing is, I'm just tired of these things. So a bit more info. I dropped that at the beginning because if you like this movie and you're going to be aggravated by people ranting about this movie, just click off this review right now. It is so not worth it. But this is the live action remake of the 1992 animated classic, also made by Disney. This one's directed by Guy Ritchie in their slew of live action remakes that we've had so far and that we will continue to get in a couple of months' time. For God's sake, we've got Lion King already in production. I know that they've got Mulan. I think Little Mermaid's been rumored as well. They ain't stopping. Like, this is the cash cow. Like, the money's going to keep pouring in for these things. I was dreading this one right off the bat, as I indeed do with all of these animated classics that come out, these live-action remakes, because I always say it, and I feel like a broken record at this point. I don't see any point in remaking these films. In my opinion, the originals still hold up. Maybe like Dumbo, like a movie that was made in like 1940, there is room there to update it in some way, but even then, they just miss the point of the heart of the original. Say, like, for example, how long is Aladdin? Aladdin is 87 minutes long. It's not even an hour and a half long. Yeah. But that movie, it tells a beginning, a middle, an end, the plot, condense, tell it. This one, when you're padding anything out to 2 hours, 10 minutes, they added pointless stuff.
They added half an hour to this film for no apparent reason. I don't actually know where they got the half an hour from as well.
Yeah,
it's like completely
I can tell you where they got it from. There is. Let's just look at this movie as a comedy then, because the original is obviously funny. There is so much painful comedy in this particular film, this live action version. And it's I chalk it up to the kind of humor from Family Guy where the joke just keeps going and it's just please stop. It's not funny. Like, they're dragging it out. There's an extended joke in this movie about jams that just seems to go on for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan for this thing, so we're going to be very scattered. We should probably try and focus it up a lot more.
I want to start on the question of why are they making these live action remakes? And I've had a little bit of time to think over this. Purely because when you're looking to reintroduce some films which are classics, you either go for one of, I guess, 2 or 3 things. You either got to do it as a shot-for-shot remake and have it absolutely exact, and I'm talking like Cinderella. They got that right, and it was an okay thing because it was updating it to have it into live action. I'm okay with that. You've got to, as it's a musical, remove the musical elements and just do it as the story of Aladdin. You don't need any music because when it's cartoon, it makes sense that they randomly burst out into song in these certain circumstances. With these kind of fairy tales and these folk tales, you can get away with it in some films. With films where it's actual musicals, I'm talking Chicago, I'm talking La La Land, you're looking at those and you're going, yes, it makes sense they break out into song because that is the whole purpose of that film. When you're looking at these folk tales, if you're updating it for a live action audience, it makes no sense that they're breaking out into song.
Which is why Mulan has removed the music for that upcoming live action remake.
Actually fit into the characters for them to do that, because when you've got a film which is meant to be a musical and non-animated, it just makes complete sense in that moment within that film. Whereas with this film, none of the songs, even though I like the songs from Aladdin, I didn't enjoy a single song from this film purely because it made no sense within the context of them being sung.
I will be honest, as soon as Will Smith starts singing in the opening song, Arabian Nights, in this film, it did kind of take me out of it. Like, I knew obviously we were going to get the music. Of course we would. Like, it's a Disney movie. Yeah, but it did feel, it was like, oh, okay, we're in this kind of movie. Like, I knew the music was going to be there. And even though I knew it was coming, it still felt weird purely because probably it is that live action medium that they're going with.
The third reason why you would change a film is because you're looking to reclassify it for a different audience. So best way of explaining that is if it was a film that was for like kids when they were growing up, maybe adapt it into something that's maybe for a little bit of an older audience. Or if it's a film which was a little bit raunchier, like a 13 or a 12 when you were growing up, dumb it down so that this new audience can bring it in and enjoy it just as much. With this film, I don't even know how to classify it. I think it should have been a little bit raunchier, have a little bit more bite to it.
Yeah.
Maybe even show a few
bit more violent,
deaths,
maybe.
a bit more violent or something like that. Because all I'm seeing here is the only reason why they wanted to bring this film out was for nostalgic reasons of, oh, hey, remember Aladdin? Remember how you enjoyed that? And it's probably the wrong film to do it with completely, because Aladdin is a very, very touchy subject. It's attached to one of the greatest animated character performances of all time, of a person who has now passed away. So anything you do, the best you can hope for is matching the original. You're never going to beat the original. It's one of the Disney classics. That's the best you can hope for. Anything lower than the best you can hope for is an insult.
Yeah.
So all you're asking for is trouble. That's all you're asking for.
I've always said that I don't understand the thought process behind these movies, because in my opinion,
if you're going to pick a Disney movie to remake or go for one of the ones that maybe wasn't as well critically received. Go for one of the ones that has been forgotten,
like Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron is one of the examples. I mean, you could pick, I don't know, Rescuers or something like that. I think now they've got the technology. They've done it with Jungle Book. I think Rescuers could work as a film. Yeah. Great Mouse Detective. Fuck it, just do a Sherlock Holmes thing. It would work with a younger audience. That would work. But like with this, it feels insulting watching the film. It really does.
Yeah.
And it tarnishes the memory. And I just want to say this. It feels insulting. Will Smith's performance might have actually been one of the better performances in the film.
Yeah.
As far as acting was concerned. And that is horrifying.
For me,
that really is.
With these live action films, and I've said this countless times, they're doomed if they do and they're doomed if they don't, in that when you see Aladdin's going to get remade, Disney version of Aladdin is going to get remade, in your head you are saying, right, we want the same songs, we want the same voices, we want the same imagery, we want everything to be the same. And if you're going to do that, if you are going to make it shot for shot, then what's the point? You have the original 1992 animated classic there. It's fine. It stands up. It's a fantastic movie. If you're at all like nostalgic for that film, you're going to have that love for it anyway, and you're going to want to watch it, and probably still do watch it. This is my VHS copy of Aladdin. I've got it on DVD. I still love this film. This is still one of my absolute favorites. As a kid and now, like there's jokes in Aladdin with Robin Williams's brilliant portrayal of the genie that you now understand as an adult that you wouldn't as a kid, and that's why it's so great. With this one, and then if you go on the opposite and you go, right, let's do something different, let's do something completely far removed from the original, well, then you're going to piss off the people that enjoyed that original and want to see that again. And if you change things or if you add new plot elements to it, they always feel out of place. Case in point, this movie, where they are padding out the running time to over 2 hours with all this extraneous material and side character plot lines, and you're just watching it and you can already tell like when something new's introduced into it, because it feels pointless. You can easily cut it out and you wouldn't miss anything from the main story. Because the original films are told with that very truncated, very concise, very well planned out plot and character journey. And this one feels like, well, we can't have a movie under 2 hours, right? If it's going to be live action.
I was going to say, with this film, another thing which I do not like about it is the fact that they actually change a couple of the characters' motivations within the plot. So this is, by the way, a spoiler review, because we are just ranting about this film. We don't care about this film even slightly.
You've already got our opinions on it now.
You have the opinion of our film. Don't go watch it. It's horrific. Do not give any more money to this movie. But with Jasmine, she doesn't just want to get out of the castle, kind of be free from that thing. No, she wants power. She wants to be the Sultan. So it ends up being... She doesn't
want to be speechless, Tayte.
She doesn't... Oh, I'll get onto that in a minute. I'll get onto that in a minute. So it ends up being this weird kind of pseudo-PG Game of Thrones kind of situation where Jafar isn't this kind of overwhelming influence of like mischief and distrust and like warmongering. Instead, he's just like a political pawn, is the best thing that I can say. He doesn't actually do anything in this film that is anywhere near threatening other than standing on someone's hand.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the actual performance of Jafar, who is easily the worst thing in this movie for me. I will, believe it or not, I will get onto some of my positives in a second. But you just jumped onto the topic of Jafar. Let's run with that. As soon as the trailers rolled out and I saw this guy, I was like, that's the best guy you could get for Jafar. There is nothing to him. Jafar is one of my favorite Disney villains of all time. That voice, that mannerism, how he looks.
I'm trying to think now who they could have cast as Jafar. Thinking for actors who possibly could have done a good job of being that menacing.
I've no idea. But Jonathan Freeman did the voice for the character in the original one, and I think he even played Jafar for a brief stint in the Broadway show as well in the US performances. And he's awesome. He's a very pantomime style villain, which obviously works for an animated film, but he does have that menacing presence. He enters the screen and you know it's bad news.
Oh my God, yes. Riz Ahmed, Rami Malek, Ben Kingsley.
Oh, Ben Kingsley would have been incredible.
Adamba, Dev Patel. You could have had anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, the thing is, with a villain, you've got a larger-than-life character of the genie. In the original, you've also got that offset with Jafar, and also the brilliant comedy sidekick, Iago, the parrot, voiced by Gilbert Gottfried in the original. In this one, like, Iago's in the movie as this CGI parrot, and he's not really a character. Like, he says like the occasional line or just kind of repeats something that Jafar says, but
no. His character role is to repeat lines when he's told to repeat lines, and when the plot demands it, move it along very swiftly. Because he moves the plot along about 5 or 6 times within the film, just as a parrot saying random words like "beef in the building, down in the rough." Just like immediately the plot has moved on about 20 minutes.
But this is the thing, if you're not going to do anything with Iago's character, or not make him a fully fleshed out character where he's going to talk and like have actual dialogue scenes back and forth with Jafar, well, then that completely removes the point of having Iago in your movie. Why is Iago in this movie? Because people remember Iago from the original, and that's the only reason that he's in this film. I am going to talk about a couple of positives now before I go into way more negatives, which is pretty much the entirety of the rest of the movie. My positives, I will say that Naomi Scott as Jasmine, I really did like her performance. I thought it was one of the strongest performances in the movie. She looks absolutely stunning. She looks the part, and she really did. I got that. She seemed really enthusiastic about the role. She seemed like she was giving it a all.
She felt like the right fit for the role. I mean, totally. If we're going to if we're going to recast anyone, she'd be at the bottom of the list. Like she is a person who just stays in this film. She looks like she had actually taken time to think about the part, if that makes sense. Yeah. So some people just turn up on the day and just go, "Oh, I'm suddenly in character." No, she actually looked like she'd kind of been in that Jasmine kind of experience.
Yeah.
So as far as the character is concerned, I liked it. She was okay, not bad. Genie as well. I mean,
I was just credit to Will
Smith. Yeah, credit to Will Smith. He put on a good performance, and the disappointing thing is, it was nowhere near as good as Robin Williams.
It was never going to be, though. Let's be honest.
Within the context of this shitty film,
he's the best thing.
It's one of the best things.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I do say that, and I do agree with you, but there is a slight caveat to it as well. When Will Smith is doing his own thing and being Will Smith Genie, it works. Mostly when he's in human form, not so much when he's trying to emulate and trying to riff on the kind of Robin Williams style humor, when he's doing like the Robin Williams lines. That's where it really didn't work for me. And it felt like a hopeless cover version, like a hopeless retread over something that's been done better before, and is a style of comedy that very sort of like improvisational. I mean, Robin Williams based more or less all of his comedy around, around his fantastic improvisational skills, whether it be stand-up or whether it be in a film. I think they had like 23 hours of material to work with on the original animated Aladdin film, because purely he just went off the cuff and did his own thing. And they even animated the character around a lot of his mannerisms. Will Smith's not that kind of comedian. He is very, very different. His style of comedy is so far removed. So when Will Smith's trying to do the same kind of stuff that Robin Williams is, it really didn't land for me, and it really rubbed me up the wrong way. But when Will Smith's doing his own thing and he's adding like a bit of his wisecracks into it and his charisma, that's where I really started to enjoy him in the role. So whilst I do think he was one of the best things in the film, which really isn't saying much,
Yeah.
it's still, I did have that slight problem with the character, even still. Another positive that I had with the movie, my last positive, I should say, this goes without saying, the orchestration and the music by Alan Menken. He did the music to the original. I really did like a lot of how he reorchestrated a lot of these songs in the film, and made it work for a live action film, and sort of, you know, broaden the scope of the soundtrack somewhat while still retaining a lot of those same cues. There's music in there that also features in a lot of the deleted music from Aladdin's soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Most notably Proud of Your Boy, which I think was originally a concept they were going to work into the original animated, where the beginning of the film was going to touch on Aladdin's parentage and him being an orphan, which they eventually scrapped, but I could hear a few of the cues from those deleted and removed songs in this film, which I liked.
Was I Will Not Be Silenced in the original?
No, it wasn't.
Sorry.
And we'll get onto that in a second, and this kind of takes me on to the next point. The actual singing in the film as well, I didn't have a problem with. Yes, there is some auto-tune in there.
Yes.
But it's nice to actually have Naomi Scott, who is a singer and can sing. Although she's aided a little bit with auto-tune, it's not Emma Watson from Beauty and the Beast level singing in this, which is really nice.
For me, and it's maybe why the music didn't work in this film, there was a definite difference, and sometimes you're able to get away with it because, like, sometimes you're kind of almost going into a song, and then you're suddenly into it.
Yeah.
With this film, oh my God, they'd be talking in one tone in 1 minute and then singing in a completely different tone. Like, for the untrained ear, it would sound like someone was singing, was speaking Scottish and then singing in perfect English. It made absolutely no sense, especially so in what I'm assuming is the main song from the film. I can't believe I'm saying that.
What, A Whole New World?
No, I Will Not Be Silenced. It was obviously the song that the writers wanted to push forward with this film. Look, it's a strong power ballad. It's a great song for like people to look up to. Not being silenced is a key message. Makes no sense with it being in this film. They changed the entire character of Jasmine just to fit this song in. Sounds like something out of the Frozen 2 soundtrack, to be honest.
Yeah.
Instead of being out of Aladdin. To go along with that as well, it's a very interesting way they worked this into the film, because not only do they manage to fit in Thanos' snap, they also somehow managed to have a song about not being silenced, which should be shouted out, screamed out so everyone can hear, sung to herself in her own mind in a dream sequence. It's just like, are you taking the piss?
I was not prepared for that dream sequence. So when people were disappearing, I thought, is Jafar making the guards disappear or the genie? And then like you realize, and then it like comes back to the present time and you realize it was all in her head. And then the movie just moves on without ever referring to that song. Like, you could easily just cut that song out of the movie and save yourself about 3 minutes.
Not only that, but the entire song sequence felt like a shoddy mid-2000s music video.
It was like Let It Go. It was kind of like a very much, you mentioned Frozen, it was very much like Let It Go in that regard. Going to also talking about the musical numbers as well. And this is going to be this constant like tug of war between animated and live action. And whilst animated, especially for this movie, Aladdin works much better in animated. With the exception of A Friend Like Me, which I actually thought was animated very well. I did like the energy of that song and all of like the CGI in it. I thought that was very well. Let's take Prince Ali, for example. In an animated film, you have so much more freedom to do pretty much anything. You can make it larger than life, cartoony, physically impossible things are happening in front of you because it's animated and you can get away with it, which works to the genie's character being this larger than life character and really helps that kinetic, zany feel to the film. With this one, Prince Ali, like, they just walk in and just like dance, and you lose out so much in that. Like, so much goes down in that same musical number in the animated one, which you just can't do in live action.
In that song, we had the biggest laugh from the audience. The only laugh from the audience we actually got in the film, which was Will Smith in drag,
Yes, yeah.
That was the only time that anyone in the cinema laughed.
I will say, for the most part, my audience was dead. Like, it was just dead air.
I just think they botched the entire kind of song scripts for everything except for A Friend Like Me, which I did quite enjoy. No reprise of Prince Ali towards the end, and the ending is a whole different animal as well. The ending made me angry, it made you angry, it made everyone angry. No giant snake, instead we get a giant parrot, which makes no sense because Jafar can teleport people to him, which means why on earth would he need to?
Which just completely removes the necessity of having to have that.
They needed a sequence similar to the start of Spectre jumping over rooftops. Like it's
when they said that Aladdin was going to get made into live action.
No
hourglass. Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously, I'm against it from the off, but I'm thinking like, okay, well, I kind of do want to see the giant snake in live action. That could be cool. And then I think I messaged like you guys on the group chat, and I don't know if it was you or George said like, "Oh yeah, there's no giant snake in this movie." I thought, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then I see the final thing, and like you've got, do we go with awesome giant snake where Aladdin's having a sword fight and Jasmine's trapped in an hourglass and she's suffocating, and everyone gets turned into like toys or like the carpet into like a ball of wool? Everyone's rendered inert. You've got Genie turning into like this giant, like Chernobog style genie, ripping the palace up from its foundations and picking it up like a giant. You've got all these things going down that's so awesome and epic in the original, and then in this one you just have Iago being turned into a giant parrot. Like, what's the point? Like, okay, like, even if you were going to make it exactly the same as that animated movie, you could still make that fucking epic in live action if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah.
And they just... This is what I mean.
They could have made the parrot Game of Thrones dragon-sized parrot.
Yeah.
And like had it destroy the city and like really have some destruction or something like that.
Or even if you wanted something different, you could have had like Jafar Genie versus Will Smith Genie in some kind of like magic battle or something. Like, that's different. We haven't seen that.
And then maybe Aladdin ends it by
lifting the lamp up or something.
Rubbing Jafar's lamp and asking for a wish and him having to abide it.
Maybe that's where you have it where like Aladdin's trying to get to the lamp, they're trying to get the lamp, but Iago picks up the lamp and they have their chase sequence as the genies are slogging it out. And then remember when I talk about action scenes having a point to the plot? So, like
finally,
no, not finally. I'm not even anywhere close to being done with this.
I was going to say, I've got one more point for myself, which I thought was the worst addition to the film by a long way, and that is the genie's motivations and the ending the genie got. Now, first of all, throughout the entire film, it's hinted at. No, it's not hinted at. It's basically stated to you that the genie is in love with the handmaiden to Jasmine.
I hated her character.
And oh my god, not only is she just an obnoxious character, but this wasn't in the original film. This entire love kind of situation makes no sense at all. I mean, he says it's initially to be a distraction, but everyone in the cinema knows that there is this connection that they've managed to form. Which, by the way, there is no connection between these characters other than you being told as the audience members that they're meant to like each other. There's nothing to suggest any hint of connection or anything like that, to the point where I can't quote the line myself, but he says, "Oh, would you like to go for a stroll?" And Chris, I'm sure you'll be able to go on. What did she say again? It's ridiculous.
Oh, I think this is later in the film.
Is that later in the film?
She goes like, "Yes, I will go with you. Also, I want children."
Yeah, it's just like, Jesus Christ, like, that's completely horrific. And not only that, at the end of the film, in the original, the genie basically just becomes free and then stays as the genie and is able to
so hard to watch now.
Wacky and wonderful stuff. Instead, Will Smith becomes human and bangs the handmaiden, makes 2 kids and tells the story to them later on, which is where the film starts. Oh.
As Brinsley just says, Chris has a lot to get off his chest. Oh boy, do I. I haven't even got anywhere. I know we need to round off soon, but like I'm not even close to being done with this. And again, it's a similar situation to how I felt with Beauty and the Beast, in that, you know, more or less the plot is in the same kind of plot is intact, but they shuffle around scenes that just seem really just superfluous to do that. Like, I don't understand their reasoning. If anything, it lessens the impact. It just feels like they do that just for the sake of being different, and it just doesn't work for the narrative. And then other than that, it's just like a lot of other little beats that are the same in the animated film, but the animated film just has way more weight to it. You could argue that it's unlikely that, you know, Aladdin or Jasmine would get together. You know, it's fairy tale, you know, it's Disney, and that kind of thing happens all the time. But I believe that the animated characters had way more of a connection in that film than they did in this.
Yeah.
We've got Disney 65 fan in the comments who actually really liked this film. I'm just going to read out what they put. They said, I liked the cinematography, the music, chemistry between Naomi Scott and Mina Massoud was very good. Will Smith stole the film. The villain was decent, and the twist at the end was good. Very Bollywood. That's another problem that I have. Very Bollywood. Aladdin was never Bollywood. It's not like Indian, like it's Middle Eastern. It's something very, very different. They try and make this thing like Slumdog Millionaire. There are like Bollywood dance sequences in this film. There are 2 dance sequences in this movie. And it feels like even the end credit version of A Whole New World, which is just awful when compared to the Peebo Bryson and the I forgot her name, Regina something from the original. They have that sort of like Bollywood Indian infused inflection in there, and I'm like, you've completely missed the point of what nationality this is. But it's just other little bits. Like, we open the film, if you're not at least privy to the original animated plot, like if you don't know the plot of the original, it completely skims over the Cave of Wonders stuff at the beginning and why they need to get Aladdin to go in there. Also, Jafar walks into the Cave of Wonders on his own accord. So how is he, if he's granted access into there?
And then don't forget the fact that he does the most menacing thing that he's done in the film by standing on someone's hand.
Oh yeah. Oh, that line was terrible. He was like, "Give me a hand. How about
a
foot?" Yeah.
It sounds like the start of a cheesy porno.
Oh boy! I've got nothing. I've got nothing to come back to that. Again, like, we open the film, Jasmine's outside in disguise outside of the palace, and then they've like rearranged this in the film where one of her suitors is approaching, and she's like, "Shit! Like, I need to get back to the palace," and like, you know,
yeah. And the suitor just walks up to her. The suitor just walks up to her and go, "Hi there, Georgie."
Oh, that fucking guy as well. That was so terrible. It's just like, people are just caricatures in this movie. They're not characters. But so we get the impression that she goes out in disguise into the city, into the town and the marketplace quite a lot, and then she has to sort of like, almost like Cinderella, be back before midnight and get back to the palace for the evening. That's just pointless. In the animated, we get the impression that she is kept like a bird in a cage, even to the point where they show the bird in the cage imagery in the animated film, where she can't go anywhere. She's trapped in here. She's meant to marry a prince. You know, she's got a certain amount of days before she becomes of age. Like, she's got to be married off. We get her sense of strife and why she's unhappy with her life, so that when she does get out into the marketplace, that means all the more. When you just start your movie off with that and then just mention everything else in, like, you know, in dialogue afterwards, with foresight, like, it just lessens the impact of that moment all the more.
Yeah.
Because if we get the impression that she goes out into the marketplace pretty much every single day, like, this isn't any big deal for her. She essentially has freedom. She can go around the market all the way through the rest of the day, just as long as she gets back to the palace for the nighttime. And that doesn't have the same impact to me. And then the final of the big one that I need to talk about is just A Whole New World, which again is like Beauty and the Beast, where it had very similar moments but less impact than the animated one. A Whole New World, I was actually really looking forward to this. I went out for a bathroom break because I really wasn't feeling this movie, but I wanted to make it back for the Whole New World segment because I thought this is going to be astounding, this is going to be visually stunning, and it's less visually stunning than the animated one. The whole concept of A Whole New World is that, you know, opening your eyes to different places, you live in a much bigger world than just Agrabah and the palace. Like, there are all these different wonderful worlds out there.
All they show is Agrabah.
They just fly around Agrabah, and it's terrible. Like, in the animated one, they go to Egypt, they fly past the pyramids and the Sphinx, they fly through Greece, they like stop off at China. They go to all these different places and beautiful, wonderful locations, and it's stunning. They're like cartwheeling in the sky and like swirling around clouds, flying through like stalks in the sky. Yeah. It's gorgeous stuff. And in this one, they just go over a waterfall, and that's pretty much it. And then
they literally blew the budget on Will Smith.
Yeah. And we need to talk about that CGI as well. They haven't changed that CGI from the trailer, by the way.
Nope.
It is terrifying. When that first trailer came out, I thought that was the most like ungodly thing that I would see all year. Like it was the scariest thing ever.
And then you saw the Sonic trailer.
And then I saw another blue character with Sonic, and then that quickly shifted to Sonic. But it's this weird, uncanny valley, pseudo-realistic Will Smith, but he's blue and he's ripped, and it's weird. I honestly don't know why you couldn't have just like animated a character like that and just had Will Smith's voice coming out of it. But then again, we know that Will Smith likes to have screen time in his films. He always likes to be seen and heard, and we see this in Suicide Squad.
Which is why we never see the genie as human in the animated one, but we do see the genie a lot as a human in this film.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's part of the actually like
that must have been in Will Smith's contract.
This is what I mean with when we see him as Deadshot in Suicide Squad, a character who's meant to be more or less constantly behind a mask. He takes that mask off every chance he gets because Will Smith has to be on screen. Disney 65 fan says, and I picked up on this as well. I forgot to mention the references with Will Smith in drag. It was a nod to Wild Wild West. I noticed that too. He's in exactly the same, more or less the same kind of outfit as he is in that, where he also dressed in drag in that film. And also the lanterns from Tangled.
I missed that. That they were releasing them towards the start of the film in the Arabian Nights song.
Oh, okay.
Even though Tangled is meant to be set in a completely different continent. I just think it was a mess of a film. It was a mistake making it. And they could have done a good job of it, but they decided instead to make it familiar but different to the original. You either go full to the original or you make it completely different, and you have no middle ground in between there. Like, it's a complete mess. It feels like it was directed by two different people. And I mean, you said it before the stream even started. Is now the time where we start to look back on Guy Ritchie, and do we now consider him to be not as good a director as what he was, or even just outright a bad director?
Like, do a couple of
hits. For me, the last good film, like properly good film that he's done, personally for me, I mean, I love Snatch. Sherlock. I was okay with Sherlock Holmes, like the original one. The second one wasn't as good. Man from U.N.C.L.E. I've heard is very good. I've never actually watched it, but Legend of the Sword was god awful. My worst film of the year. And Aladdin, it's getting there. It really is getting there.
I don't think Guy Ritchie was the right director for this film at all. Nothing from his previous work screams that he would be competent enough to direct a movie like this, or even make a movie like this.
I would have loved to have seen Taika Waititi to Aladdin. I think the wackiness would come out. I think it would be a good match.
I would like to see, seems trite saying Phil Lord and Chris Miller for anything, but I think they could have definitely have brought more to it. Not that they would make a movie like this, I don't think. But I'm with the critics on this one. This is reading off Wikipedia. Some have praised the performances of Massoud, Smith, and Scott, costumes and musical numbers, while others criticize the direction, pacing, and CGI effects. I will say the pacing of this film is terrible. The first part of this film is awful. The second part, I started to get into it a little bit more when Will Smith was kind of doing his own thing. And then the ending just fell off a cliff for me. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this film at all. If you're a fan of the original, just don't go and see it, because the original's better. And you know what? In 2 months' time, I'm going to say exactly the same thing for Lion King. I already know I will. Lion King is a fantastic film. Everyone still loves it. The Broadway show still gets sold-out performances. 2 sold-out performances every single day. And it's still on Broadway and it's still on the West End. But I guess from like a visual standpoint, because the visuals do look stunning in Lion King, and I am looking forward to seeing it from like a technical angle and to see what they do with it in that regard. But I really just want these live action versions to stop, because they're just paling in comparison to the original. The original does that so much better. You have professional singers in there. The animation's stunning. You have a lot more freedom without the limitations of it being in live action. When it's in cartoon, you can do so much more stuff. And they still hold up. They still stand the test of time. So I just want them to round off. But as long as they keep making money, and Lion King is going to make a shit ton of money as well.
Here's the thing. If Lion King's good, then what can you do about it? Like, it's one of those things where if Lion King is good, then they will not stop making these. They'll remake every single one of them. Which I can't wait until they get to Song of the South. Oh Boy, I cannot wait.
Very quickly, Disney 65 fan says, did you notice that Mina Massoud and Naomi Scott were sped up in the song One Jump Ahead? Yeah, and that was really weird. That was sort of like where the real Guy Ritchie-isms came through in that one particular song. Like the sped up footage and the slow-mo and everything and the quick edits was very strange. Yeah, I think we've pretty much said everything we can on this one. There's probably more that I can say, but I've no enthusiasm with it. I went in with zero expectation. Well, I went in with bad expectations, and guess what? The movie was even worse than my expectations were.
Yeah.
Yeah, did not have a good time with this movie at all. We've ranted about this movie for long enough now. We're going to sign off now. Later this week, Godzilla 2 is out, which I do definitely want to see. And let's hopefully they keep the focus on that movie. Just show me big dinosaurs punching the shit out of each other for 2 hours, and I will be contented. I need something to cleanse the palate after the last couple of movies I've been to see. So I've said everything I can on Aladdin, unless you've got anything else you want to round off with.
No, I'm completely done with this film.
Go watch the original, please, for the love of God. And I'm going to try and get a battery that works in my mouse to round off. Thank you to everyone in the comments, and thank you, Disney 65 fan, for offering a different perspective on this film. There are going to be people out there that do like this movie. Whether you do or whether you don't, please do get comments in below and tell us more about this movie. Did you like it? Do you want to see any other Disney live-action versions? And what are your thoughts on the ones that are coming out so far? That'll do it from us for right now, and until the next review, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.